Hello, guys, and thank you for joining me on another episode of this Nirvanic journey where we are aligning our health with our enlightenment. Okay, today we are going to discuss the cardiovascular benefits of taking your exercise routine up a notch. Okay, you may have heard of high intensity interval training, or HII, is what we're going to call it on here. Per Harvard Health Publishing's article on interval training for stronger heart, they describe high interval intensity training or high intensity interval training as alternating between short bursts of intense exercise and brief periods of rest or less activity. The result of this is improved cardiovascular health with less time spent working out. Okay. Now, typical exercise guidelines for men recommend that men implement at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise or 30 minutes 5 days per week, such as brisk walking or anything that raises your heart rate. Those same guidelines state that half of that with high interval intensity training, you can do half that much with high interval intensity training. Okay, so 150 minutes per week is what's recommended, but when you're doing it in the aspect of high interval intensity training, it can be 75 minutes as opposed to 150. Okay, so that's a big savings on time right there. Okay, the primary difference is that high interval intensity training is that you break a sweat quicker and you go until exhaustion, then you rest and you repeat. Okay, so that's basically what you do. Harvard Health gives the example of how to change regular exercise into high interval intensity training. I hope I'm saying that right. It's not high intensity interval, but anyway, you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm talking about, okay? So in other words, with swimming, like if let's say you just normally swim a lot, you would swim one lap as fast as you are able to swim, rest for that same amount of time it took you to swim the lap, and then do it again, okay? As many times as you're able, as many reps as you're able to do, okay? And you could look it up and find out what a good amount of reps is to do so that you can make sure you're working at your hardest. If you're walking, you're used to walking, you could walk as fast as you can for a minute or two, then walk more leisurely as your rest time, and then walk again as fast as you could. If you run, then you would run really, really fast, like sprint, okay? And then you would slow down and walk at a leisurely pace, and then you would pick it back up again. Okay, so you get my drift. Okay, you're doing the same amount of exercise in half the time. Okay, all right. The perk is that you can achieve the same cardiovascular benefits for your heart, but the only caveat to this is that it is not meant to build muscle strength up. So if you're looking to like build muscle strength and not, this is more for like weight loss and cardiovascular health. So what a friend of mine's doing high interval intensity training right now, and he's doing it to lose weight. Okay, so once he reaches his weight goal, he's going to go back and implement the weights that are going to help him to gain the muscle mass that he's looking for. Okay, but first he wants to get down to his desired weight, then he's going to work on his muscles. Okay, but I can guarantee you that along the way, as you're doing the interval training, that you are going to find that you are gaining muscle mass as you go. Okay. The same article that I was reading from earlier also recommends that you need to listen to your body. Don't dive in too fast. As usual, you need to check with your doctor before starting any new exercise routines. Take it at your own pace. Make sure you're checking your heart rate and it's not getting outside of a safe zone. Especially if you have pre-existing conditions or things like that. It is recommended that you always warm up prior to starting each session since it's high intensity and you just plug right in. Okay, it's not like you're going to start slow and then build yourself up. It's like you're going to go ahead and just boom, do it. So go ahead and get your stretching out beforehand so you don't end up injuring yourself or something like that. Be prepared to have muscle soreness after you begin interval training. Usually day number 2 is the worst pain that you're going to have. So the next day you'll be sore and you'll be like, oh, but the 2 days later is when you're going to be like, I can't get out of bed. Okay. But that's okay. That is a good thing. That's a good feeling. Okay. Make sure you drink tons of water. You don't want the lactic acid that builds up in your muscles as you're working out, and burning fat and stuff like that. You don't want that that'll hurt much worse if you don't flush that out of your system. Okay. All right. An article found on NCBI, it's one of my favorite websites, named High Intensity Interval Training for Health Benefits and Care of Cardiac Disease. They spoke of aerobic capacity, which is also called peak oxygen consumption. And a lot of people that do interval training are very aware of their VO2 peak levels or their VO2 max levels, okay? The VO2 peak is the greatest amount of oxygen that one can uptake and consume during intense training and workout. Now, the difference between the two, the peak and the max, is that the peak is what you can reach while you're being tested at your doctor's office. Let's say they want to do a VO2 peak test on you while you're in the doctor. They're going to get you to run on a treadmill. They're going to see how much insulin, I mean, not insulin, how much oxygen your body can consume during that interval that you're doing their treadmill in their office. Your max level is as a person, as yourself, what your overall max in your life can be, okay? And you can continue to get that max higher and higher as you get in, amazing shape, okay? And become the god and goddesses that we were meant to be, okay? All right. All right. Those people with established coronary vascular disease already, risk factors such as hypertension, high body mass index, or diabetes have a greater risk of developing coronary issues in their life, as you all know. So the goal of doctors right now is to help patients improve their overall VO2 peak levels in the office so that they know that their heart is getting healthier and healthier as they get that VO2 peak level higher and higher in their office. Of course, we know we all want to get our max level to the max that it can be, okay? So what I wrote is, folks, if we can implement this as a running goal for ourselves, this can be a running goal to improve our VO2 peak levels through high intensity interval training, okay? So let's let this be the way that we get that number up. So they're not doing necessarily interval training to see your VO2 peak and max. That has nothing really to do with that. It's just that a lot of interval trainers they use that as kind of a baseline for how am I doing? Am I getting better? Is my health getting better? All right, to me, I like to perform reverse psychology on myself. I find sometimes I have to perform reverse psychology to be able to trick my brain into doing stuff. So I would like to say, okay, I'm going to go to the doctor. I'm going to get my VO2 peak levels checked. And then I'm going to go see if I can get that VO2 peak up, okay? I'm not going to talk about the interval training and about how I need to get up to this many reps or that many reps or this many times a week. What I'm really going for is that doctor number. So whenever the doctor sees it, he's like, wow, you're awesome or whatever. And he's giving me a pat on the back, that kind of stuff. And that's what I'm really going for. So that way I can tell myself, hey, look, the doctor's expecting a good check. When we go back in 2 or 3 months, the doctor's expecting a better number. Okay. So you can trick your brain into thinking that you need to get that down. Okay. All right. Get it up. All right. According to Mayo Clinic, by implementing high intensity interval training to your workout routine, you will burn more calories because the more vigor you add to your workouts, the more calories you're going to burn. Even if the intensity is only for a few minutes at a time, you burn more calories doing the interval training because you have to do less, okay? You will use less time working out, so you'll have more time for your life. After all, one of the primary reasons people give for not exercising at all is because, guess what? They don't have time, okay? All right, you will improve your aerobic capacity, which is the VO2 peak level. It will keep you from getting bored with your normal exercise routine. And number 5, you do not need to use special equipment because, as I mentioned above, you can turn the way that you normally exercise into a high-intensity interval training, okay? So there are plethoras of videos and all kinds of information online for that, and I'm going to put a link below for a beginner. His name is Nate Bauer, and he has a YouTube called Nate Bauer Fitness, and I'm going to put a link to that below for beginners of high-intensity interval training, okay? As with any new workout routine, make sure you check with your doctor, okay? Mayo Clinic recommends starting slow and then building up over time. One last thing before I go, we're almost done with this particular episode, is that I found in the Men's Journal magazine, but don't worry, girls, it'll be fine and dandy for us as well. That's what I wrote. Okay, so they listed 7 reasons that you should consider high intensity interval training, and that is for men and women, okay, if you're asking me. Number 1, you will continue to burn calories for hours after you're done exercising. Isn't it nice when you've done a really good workout, and you're still burning calories all day long? That's awesome. You will be more likely to stick to the routine because it's more enjoyable, states Tom Holland, who is an exercise physiologist, and most people just love the exercise. It will quickly boost your endurance, and then they recommend that next time you are feeling sluggish on a run, next time you're just running at your normal pace and you're just so sluggish, kick it up and do a sprint. Okay, add a sprint, run as fast as you can for 60 seconds, and then stop. And then when you're just doing your normal run, boy, you're going to have a lot more energy than you had prior to that, okay? So it's just going to boost your energy levels and your endurance levels. Also, high intensity interval can increase your overall VO2 max number, as I described to you above. That was their fourth reason in the Men's Health magazine. Again, the time that you save as opposed to regular interval workouts is much greater in a shorter amount of time. Also, high intensity can be done in many forms and fitted to match your health needs and age and experience level. Guys, I have touched on every potential reason you could give for not exercising, okay? Please don't use any of those reasons because I've already bashed them, okay? High intensity is better for, also, no, this is number 7 in Men's Health. High intensity is better for your heart as it increases the flexibility and elasticity of arteries and veins better than continuous aerobic exercise due to the pressure demand on your blood vessels, which makes them get a workout as well. This type of exercise has been found not only safe, but easier to tolerate than more moderate workout in people with coronary artery disease. So even if you have coronary artery disease, they're stating here in this magazine that doctors are finding it is a better form of exercise to do when you've already been, diagnosed. So folks, I hope you guys found this episode of Nirvanic Journey most helpful. If so, please hit the like button and share it with somebody you think it might help, and leave me a comment down below as to what interval training you are already doing and what you've experienced, the weight loss, the muscle build, whatever you found that is how it's helped you, okay? And your test results. Let's see if you've had a VO2 peak and test and stuff like that done at your doctor's office. Tell me about that below too. Thank you so much. I wish you much love and white light, and namaste.